1. As a frontline employee in a bank, I get to meet all kinds of customers, including the difficult ones. Knowing the fact that it is part of my job to deal with all kinds of people, I always try to be extra nice, although it is challenging sometimes. To those who may have different rules, in the States, normally banks do not provide public restrooms due to security protocols. My bank, however, in certain branches, allows customers to use our restrooms as a courtesy. It was a late morning, around 11. My coworker and I were busy doing our tasks on our computers, no customer at the moment. A lady in her mid-60s walks in without acknowledging anyone. She walks past us and into the employee area where our bathroom is. My coworker immediately looked at me and asked, "Do you know that lady that just walked in?" "No, but I think she's probably just in a rush. She might come up to us afterwards." A few minutes later, she stalks out, also acts like no one existed. As a manager, I stood up. "Hi, ma'am. Please do let us greet you next time before you walk into the employee area." "I'm just using the restroom. Do I need to show my ID?" "Ma'am, this is a bank." Before I finish, "You don't know that I'm a customer? How dare you?" "I'm sure you're one of our valued customers, but to protect..." "When I go to the other branch of ABC Road, no one ever questions me when I need anything. Who do you think you are?" "Ma'am, part of my job is to protect the branch and all customers' information, including yours. I would be glad to lead you to the restroom if you'd allowed me." "So every time when I need to use your restroom, I need my ID?" "Only if there's no employee who recognizes you." I was thinking, what do you mean by every time using our restroom? You do know banks don't have a service providing restrooms, right? You're not entitled to use our restroom, and frankly, it's against certain rules.
"So because you don't know me, I can't use your restroom."
Does she hear herself, I'm thinking? "Yes, ma'am, like I said, this is a ban..."
"You two are lowlives. How dare you treat me this way?"
"Ma'am, all I said was let us greet you, and if you have to put a scene here, I'm afraid I will have to ask you to leave now."
"You want me to leave? I will leave, but you are a lowlife, and you..."
"Leave now and don't come back. You are not welcome here." I cut her off. She then left. I thought the whole thing just went away. Boy, was I wrong. About 2 hours later, she came back, and not alone. 2 other ladies around her age came in along with her. She started yelling,
"You told me not to come back. Now I'm back. What are you gonna do, huh?"
The other 2 were much quieter while scolding at us like I'd never
"Like this branch. You two are not good at your job."
Blah, blah, blah. I guess because of the other 2 ladies joining in, the restroom lady got more excited and started throwing things on our desk. And then there was a very loud bang. It even startled herself. She paused and started again.
"You discriminate me because I didn't wear my fancy dress today. Do you know I have a Mercedes?"
While she was yelling, she got closer and closer to me to the point she could easily attack me. One of our male co-workers saw that and came to us. He stood between us and said, "Ma'am, please keep your distance. Please do not touch anyone. Look, I don't care what you wear or what you drive. If you're here for business, as long as you're calm, I will help you. If not, please leave."
"I'm not going to leave. What are you going to do?"
"Are you here to fight? Because if you are, I'm going to have to call the police."
"Call the damn police, I dare you. You're a coward if you don't."
I picked up the phone and called our security office first. I reported this incident first. Our security officer told me to call the police immediately, as he had been monitoring the whole situation. Yes, we have CCTV everywhere. It is a bank office. I then called the police. While I was on the phone, all 3 ladies were deadly quiet, and the restroom lady finally said with a much lower voice,
"For this kind of thing, you actually call the police? You just want to waste our tax money on a small argument like this?"
"I don't want to be a coward now, do I?" I grinned. They sat there quietly, and very soon 2 police officers came in. They asked the 3 ladies to go outside. Now the drama begins. Bathroom lady says,
"I don't feel good. I can't stand right now. My heart has a condition."
The police officer took a chair and moved outside. "Ma'am, you can sit outside so we can talk."
"I'm the elder here. You're going to question me. Question them."
"What do you want me to question them about?"
"You can ask them why they treat me this way."
"Ma'am, why don't you all come out and we will ask you questions separately." The restroom lady slowly stands up and walks out the door. The officers ask the other 2 to also come along, but One of the quiet ones said,
I didn't yell. I should not go.
Are you with them, though?
No, I'm not with anyone.
The officer turns to me. Is she with them? Yes, officer, she is with them. Please, ma'am, I only have a few questions. The ladies go out and talked with the officers, then they were let go. The officers came in and said, call us again if they come back, but it looks like they won't. Have a good day. That's one of my days, folks. 2. I've been doing hair for 10 years now, and with any occupation in the service industry, you get some strange and just some rude people that come in. I recently switched salons, having been at my last place for 7 years. There were definitely some clients that I didn't tell I was leaving. Well, one lady who I've only done her hair maybe 2 times somehow finds me. We'll call her CL for Crazy Lady. So she comes in and shows me a picture of how she wants her hair done. Basically blue and violet all over. We both decide to just do the colors over the previous highlights I had done before, so it's a little more low maintenance, healthier for her hair, and will ultimately cost less money. All is well. The next day she calls the salon asking to speak to me. She tells me that she can't see any purple in her hair, and even her kids said so. After a few minutes of talking on the phone and trying to figure out exactly what the issue is, I tell her to come in and let me take a look at it. She comes in with her hair pulled back into a tight ponytail, so from the front you can't really see any of the vivid colors I put in. I ask her to take her hair down, and she says she doesn't see any of the color. I start lifting pieces up, saying, you don't see this purple, here's some blue, and she keeps pointing at her root area in front by her receding hairline.
I don't see any of the color here.
Well, I say, like we talked about yesterday, instead of highlighting again, I just put the colors you wanted on the faded highlights from last time. So no, you won't have color right at the root. As she's sitting in my chair, my coworkers are eyeing her. All this time we're talking, I'm pulling up pieces of blue and violet. One of my coworkers says, wow, that's a nice violet. I'm trying to figure out how to make CL happy, but since we already discussed what I would be doing in a thorough consultation yesterday, if I added more highlights I would have to charge her again. She ultimately decides that it's okay and leaves, after we discuss just going for it and coloring everything a bright vivid color for her next appointment. Fast forward to the next time she calls for an appointment. CL calls on a Friday evening for a Saturday appointment. Ah! Now usually there is no way I would have time to squeeze a color in like that. Well, I had a client reschedule her appointment for Saturday, so I call CL and ask her if we were going to go through with our plan from last time. I explained to her that it is a long process, and she can anticipate being in the salon for at least 3 hours. I also tell her that I needed her to be at the salon by 11 a.m., because I wanted to make sure that I had enough time for her appointment. She says thanks and no problem. Next day, 11 a.m. rolls around, finished my client from earlier, so I'm waiting for CL to walk through the door. 11:05, 11:10 goes by. Now is the time I start to get a little annoyed because the type of color she wants is very time-consuming and can be tedious. CL finally walks through the door 20 minutes past her appointment time. I'm standing in my chair waiting at this point, so as soon as she walks in, I usher her over. CL, hi, I'm ready for you. She comes over and then proceeds to just stand in front of my chair talking very quickly.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I woke up late and I didn't even have a chance to get coffee. I don't usually wake up until this time.
In my head, I'm thinking you literally scheduled the appointment last night and you couldn't set an alarm? Haha, okay, I say. Just have a seat and we'll make sure we're on the same page with your color. She shows me a picture of blue and violet hair again. So I reiterate, okay. So this time we will be doing everything these colors, correct?
Yes, I think so. Oh, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, you know I love doing this type of color, so yes, I think we should go for it. You said it wasn't noticeable enough last time, and I think this would be the best option.
Okay, I'm scared.
What? What are you scared of? You've had these colors before, but now it'll be all of your hair. The colors you said you wanted.
Oh, I know. I'm scared for my checkbook.
Well, okay. I'll get you a prize before we start. At this point, it's been another 15 minutes of discussing exactly what we're doing for her today. So it's been about 30 minutes past her appointment time, and I haven't even mixed up color yet. I run to the back room to get started because now I'm worried about how long the process will take. I start applying her lightener. This is a double process. I have to get her hair light enough for the blues and violets, then shampoo. Cut her hair, blow dry, then apply the final color, let that process rinse, then blow dry again. As I'm applying the lightener, she turns in the chair and says,
Are you going to make my roots lighter too?
Yes, but the ends of your hair process a lot slower than your root area, because there isn't any heat on the mids and ends of your hair. I will start applying the lightener to your roots once the rest of the hair is processed about 80% of the way. Don't worry, CL. As I'm working, one of my coworkers comes over and asks if I'd like something from the coffee shop down the street. I say no thanks, and CL butts in and says,
"Oh my god, I would love a coffee, thank you!"
My coworker just says, okay, how would you like it?
Black, please. Oh, huh, what service? Maybe you could bring back some lunch too.
Oh, I'm just going out on a coffee run right now. I give my coworker an apologetic look, and she goes around taking orders from the other stylists working. Don't get me wrong, there are times when we will ask clients if they'd like anything, if it's a quiet day. But Saturday is a very busy day in the salon. She was just being very rude and acting kind of strange. All this time, she can't seem to sit still in my chair and seems almost manic. After I finish applying the first process of color, I retreat to the back room to talk to my coworkers about her. They all agree she's acting a little weird. Hairstylists most definitely talk about our clients in the back room. I'm sure every hairdresser has some pretty interesting stories. You'll occasionally get some weirdos in any kind of service industry job, which isn't necessarily a bad thing until it messes up the rest of your schedule for the day. CL gets her coffee and couldn't be happier. I shampoo her hair, then cut, then blow dry. Then I mix up her color that we agreed on. As I'm applying the final color, she gets quiet and almost seems to be falling asleep, which seems very strange to me as she was bursting with energy only a few hours ago. I know it's a long process, but it almost seemed like she was coming down off of something. But I won't make assumptions, she might just be a little odd. After I finish her color and blow dry, we discuss what type of products and shampoo she should purchase to keep her color vibrant for as long as possible. I'm now still at work, almost 2 hours after I was due to be off, and frankly, I am just done with this lady. I am not sure how she found me, but good lord does it test my patience. Please be on time to your appointments. Even 5 minutes can mess up your stylist's whole day of appointments. I'm not trying to imply that asking questions is a bad thing either. This lady just doesn't ever seem to know what she wants, or even if she does give me an idea, and I repeat it back to her, she gets scared for some reason. Writing this all out is making me think how insane it's going to be once our state allows the salons to open back up. 3. Around 20 years ago, my wife and I were newlyweds. We were attending university and decided to get married at the end of October, a story for another time, as I took a physical chemistry exam the Monday after our wedding. We had just moved into our first apartment off campus on November 1st, and were very excited to have our very own address and phone number. We were truly independent, and it was an exciting time for us. Even though we were young, both 19, we needed to establish our own thing, you know? As you might imagine, along with this new excitement came the inevitable learning curve of dealing with grown-up stuff, including a pretty unique issue with our newly established household phone number. I was so proud to figure out how to get this up and going, and have the responsibility and privilege of our very own phone number, complete with monthly billing cycle. This was back in the time when cell phones were a major vehicle modification project, and caller ID was not quite in existence yet. There was the star 69 option for those old enough to remember, but in general the phone rang and you answered it to figure out who was calling. As well, things weren't programmable then, and the only way to stop a ring-through is to take it off the hook, which led to an annoying tone emanating from the phone, and who wants to listen to that that goes on to infinity, which still leaks through that drawer and towel that you've wrapped around the receiver, or to completely unplug it, which was quite inconvenient as you'd have to remember to plug it back in when you needed it. And this is why perhaps this story could only originate during that kind of time. Being university students, we did not tend to be early birds, as in general, the earliest class we had started at 9 a.m. And we lived right on the border of our small university. You could walk across campus in 10 minutes easily. But especially so for me, as I'd never been a morning person and take a good while to wake up and get going. I also slept very soundly, so this means for the most part, most days we'd be up around 7:30 a.m. at the very least. But any time that schedules permitted, more like 11 a.m. or noon. Man, just thinking about that now makes me shiver. And I can't imagine sleeping past 8 a.m. now. Digression. The main event. Anyway, this is where things started. Because it's been a long time, the exact wording of things is just an approximation, but in general, I try to convey the important points of them. A couple days after we had a functioning phone and were attending the end of fall semester at university, the early morning phone calls began, like 4 or 5 a.m. calls. The amazing new independence symbol of a corded cheap plastic phone is sitting on a small table at my side of the bed, stage left. In a tiny room, a tiny apartment in the far-flung reaches of the landscape. Ugh. I roll around. Wife pokes me. Get that. Huh? Hello?
I can't make it to work today. My kid's not feeling well.
Okay. And I hang up. What was that? I drift off to sleep again. Silence, save for a deep drifting off to sleep breath that isn't quite a snore. The next day I realized what I'd done. My wife and I laughed about this for a bit, but also felt bad, and wondered whatever happened to the person who just took a day off work without really calling in. Had whoever she intended to call reached out to her eventually? Did she get in trouble? Oops. Well, we lived in Minnesota then, and November often brings snowfall. We lived in the wind capital of the state, so with snow followed drifts and whiteout conditions, where you couldn't see across the street and certainly not safely drive. As well, it is important to understand that in the small town of southwestern Minnesota where we lived, things are very rural. As in, the town has around 13,000 people that live there. That's the big city. They had a full-fledged university. Most of the surrounding towns, in the next 50 miles or so, have around a couple hundred people at most. Because of the outsized influence of the big city, people drove often from other towns to work at our booming metropolis's industrial furnaces. The main irons in this sweltering fire were food-packing plants, as we did have a rail yard connected to the Twin Cities and other places. How fancy. The particular pillar of industry at issue in this story is the local sugar water bottling place. The first time it snowed that year, the phone started ringing around 4 a.m., same setting as before.
Get that.
Hello?
I can't make it to work today. The drifts are too bad. There's no visibility.
Okay. I hang up.
What the fuck was that?
Nothing, I say, drifting off. Probably 3 minutes later. Hello? I can't get out of my driveway. I ain't gonna make it in today. You have the wrong number. Oh, sorry. Bye. Time passes. Hello?
It ain't safe. The school's been cancelled, so I have to stay with the kids today. John's stuck out of town.
You have the wrong number.
Oh, well. I got this from the office bulletin board. It said to call here if we can make our shifts. Val said it worked. I called the main number and there ain't nobody there.
Well, there is some mistake. This is an apartment. We're students at SSU, and we have nothing to do with this.
Okay. Well, this sucks. Guess I'll call the main line again.
Bye. Passage of a bit of time, by now we're awake. It's now something like 4:30 a.m., on a day when we almost certainly had classes, as they did not cancel university classes very often for snow days. But we could always hope and check. Maybe we could sleep in if we could find out on those early morning newscasts with the scrolling cancellations. Spoiler, it was not to be. Hello.
I'm not gonna make it in today.
You have the wrong number.
No, I checked and I'm sure I have the number they told us. They were very clear. Any excused absence requires us to call this number. It's the one to the main room every time. I can't get a hold of anyone else except Vol, and she said it was fine.
We live in an apartment. We are students at SSU. We have nothing to do with this, and we don't know what you're talking about.
They were clear. Call this number, or we catch crap.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think they screwed up.
Okay, I'll try again.
Sounding very unimpressed with me. WTF, I'm just trying to sleep before braving the windy snow to attend my physical chemistry labs or whatever. Sure enough, a few seconds later... Hello.
Well, here we are again.
Yep, it's early and I'm tired. You have the wrong number.
I checked and I'm not falling for that. You just want me to come in. But I told you I can't. My kids are home today, and there's no way I can get a babysitter right now. Stop being such a jerk. You told Vol it was okay. I'm not taking up the slack for everyone.
Really, I have no idea what you're talking about. I can't help you here. They must have screwed up.
What do you want me to do here? I'm not coming in.
Is there another number you can call?
This is the one they gave us. And no one's answering the main line.
Sorry, I can't help you. And I hang up. A few seconds later... Hi.
Stop doing this. I'm not coming in today. I can't make it with my car. I will never make it through the drifts, and I have the kids today.
We've been over this. We have nothing to do with your work. What's going on? Asks my wife. For some reason, we're now being polite to them. They think we're their boss or something.
Stop playing games. I can hear you talking and it's not working. You're not fooling me.
That's my wife. Would you like to speak with her?
Sure.
Hello?
Stop this nonsense. You know I'm not coming in.
No, really, we're not your boss. They must have given you the wrong number. Now, I'm not sure what happened exactly as memory fades, and I think I got up to turn the news on by now. I mean, I'm not getting any sleep at this point, but later on, I was checking my wife's voice was getting louder and heard this. Fine, don't come. I don't care at all. Just stop calling us. She hangs up. After several more calls like this, we took the phone off the hook and eventually carried on with the day. Over the next many days and months, we'd get periodic calls informing us of someone who couldn't make it today. Sometimes we'd even get requests to swap shifts and other types of things related to this bottling plant. Sometimes we just said, okay, and hung up, and other times we tried to explain what was up. Occasionally we'd get into arguments and ensure these people we're not their boss. I recall even getting one call from a clearly newer employee who was pretty good about it and showed some level of understanding. I think he even told me and my wife he had heard about the call-in issues. This is perceived as some kind of an attempt to stop people from being able to call in without catching crap and getting docked in pay or something. The aftermath. I believe it was early the following year, a couple months later, when we received a call from someone that was a manager at Viking Bottling Company. Then asked my wife,
Have you been telling people it was okay to miss work?
Well, yes, Mr. Manager, we have. And we've been trying to explain things, but there are several very persistent employees who just don't seem to understand. He's not quite understanding. Seemed, if anything, angry with us. But I suspect he was upset because the reports he'd been getting of, I swear, we called in, were true. And now he had a giant mess to clean up. Turns out our newly issued phone number, the one that meant so much to us, had 2 numbers transposed to their office number. And someone had posted our number on the bulletin board. After the error was corrected, we got a few calls now and then, and it was less of an issue. But we experienced a few months of early morning calls that taught us the value of clear communication and follow-up exploration when things don't make sense. I still think about those times when I just granted people a day off because I was too tired and incoherent to realize what was going on and get a smile on my face. If you made it that far, thanks. Have a great day off work on me. 4. My hubby and I were looking at wedding photos, and we were reminded of this. Some background. I recently got remarried to my dear husband last January, before Corona exploded. My husband and I work in Japan, but we're both expats. So we keep our wedding guest list short and limited to our immediate family and close friends, because our families would have to fly here just to attend. It's a big ask. My husband and I are also very introverted. We don't drink, we're not overly fond of parties, and we're both very close to our immediate families. So we thought instead of having a bachelor or bachelorette party, why not host a dinner for our respective families? We both agreed, and our families liked the idea too. They wanted to spend time with us on the last night before we were officially married. He and his family went to another restaurant and me and mine to another. My family is composed of my parents, my brothers and sister-in-laws, my aunts and my uncles. On to the scene. My family and I went to this Chinese restaurant at the hotel we were staying at. My family loves Chinese food, so we thought it was a great choice. We had a whole room reserved for our table, so we had some privacy. Because we were in a room, we had one head waitress who was the liaison between our party and the waitstaff. She spoke Japanese, and I could also speak Japanese, but my family could not. So I sat at the end of the long table so it was easier to talk to the staff, because I did a lot of translating back and forth between my family and her. If she asked a question, I would translate for my family and relay the answers to her in Japanese. If my family had a question, same deal. When the third dish was served, she came to ask me a question about the fourth dish. Should we serve the fourth dish individually, or should we let everyone decide how much to put on their plate? Individually, please, thank you. Okay. She made a note in her order tablet. By the way, this party is for the wedding tomorrow night. Yeah, we're all really excited. Everybody flew in from another country, and it's been stressful, but it's finally tomorrow. She gestures to my brother and sister-in-law, who were coincidentally sitting at the center of the table. Are they the lucky couple? They look so good together. I'm the bride-to-be. She was quiet for a full 20 seconds. I felt so bad for her, so I laughed it off. But I agree, they do look good together. They've been married for a good 4 years already. She sighed, hopefully in relief. I'm sorry, I thought you were the tour guide. It's okay, don't worry about it. Then she excused herself to take care of the fourth dish. What was that about? Is there a problem? My brother asks. She thought you and your wife were the ones getting married tomorrow. Oh, you probably look like the tour guide for our group. Yeah, that's what she said. Did I really look like the tour guide? I mean, everybody's paired off, you're the only one without a partner, and you're the only one who can speak Japanese. You've been talking to her about everyone's orders and basically running around. I have. We told our family that conversation, and everyone had a good laugh. I made sure I went to talk to the head waitress afterwards to make sure she was alright. She was. I also made sure I talked to the manager to let him know that his staff was exemplary. We don't give tips in Japan, but I would have tipped her so much if I could. Thanks for listening. 5. Years ago, when I was living in the southern part of the country, I had recently divorced and through a series of satirical, comedic tragedies, decided to go back to university. Now it had been well over 20 years since my first attempt. Going back and seeing how vastly different the environment was, it became clear that if I wanted to succeed in my academic career, I would need to work part-time, quitting my full-time position as a chef. Now anyone who is over 40 years old and currently in school can bear witness to how hard kids are hustling for grades and to be functional for work. It was humbling to see, as well as be part of. For myself, the task was intimidating. However, having a solid 2 decades plus, I had the advantage of having life, plus work history, and the most powerful advantage of all, no rampaging hormones. Now anyone must be prepared mentally, physically, and spiritually, insert the preferred deity, belief, or higher power of your choice. That given, school for everyone is a matter of choice you contribute versus what you get back, and we in the USA have incredible learning facilities, which produce equal levels of brilliant young minds to help guide the world through their lives. Some may scoff at the idea that southern state universities are capable of shepherding youngsters to their potential. But having come from the West Coast, primarily Washington and California, educated there, and former employment with many major domestic, including several U.S. branches of foreign companies, I can say never judge a book by its cover, because one of the mathematicians at ASU Jonesboro is responsible for the discovery of a new prime number recently before I started attending. The major I chose was international business with a minor in law. For the most part, studies are easy. Literature, composition, science, history, and the like all come together with ease for me. Good thing due to my having a mild dyslexia and it emerging like the kraken of Greek mythology and any advanced mathematics, crushing me and attempting to raise my GPA to the ground. For this reason, it was paramount that I worked a job that was 20 to 30 hours a week, and not disruptive to my studies or extracurricular activities, since I volunteered for work with special needs students and also had several internships for my portfolio. The most powerful and enjoyable was working for the then presidential candidate Mike Huckabee, even writing a speech on our youth being a new frontier and they being our first priority. Certainly the world's most precious renewable resource. And on that, everyone can point a finger at me for all outcomes of his campaign. Finding work was easy, however. It was nearly insurmountable to gain employment with a company that would honor its word and not try to push the 40-plus man to enter management or simply schedule me full-time plus hours, and then have a WTF are you going to do about it attitude. Well, being on the deans and chancellors list, holding a 3.93 GPA, provided the luxury of several thousands of dollars in grants and scholarships, and the most powerful advantage to drop any job faster than John Goodman hitting the ground and attempt to get a piggyback ride on Paul Rubens. So I technically job surfed until the nearly perfect job was offered to me. The company shall remain in anonymity, but let us say the rent orange trucks, all the supplies and equipment that you need, offer storage and propane. The job was pretty sweet. The boss worked around my school, we were paid over minimum wage, gained good discounts from the company, their cell phone service provider and boss man would buy snacks, in addition to lunch for the crew Saturday. Now as a team, certainly on the inside staff, we all treated each other as family. Matter of fact, I still remain friends with many of our motley crew and have much love for them and their families. Sword of Damocles is the home office, which is directly managed by the company owner and his family. So after much ado, the true story begins. I had been working for about 3 months and was a valued member of the store, treated with equal rights and respect as anyone else, even though my probation period had just rolled over. The job was easy, assisting with walk-in customers, booking reservations for trucks or equipment, cleaning, returning vehicles, and recently vacated storage units and other tasks. The job did require more effort in dealing with the pickup and return of equipment things, such as,
"The fuel was only at half. Not full when I got it. I only used it in town, so I have no idea where it got 456 miles on the odometer. You guys must have got it wrong when I picked it up."
And so we were par for the course. But the best were when the trucks would come back with the mom's attic, looking like Magneto mistakenly started tearing it off, looking for his nemesis, or one whole side panel looking the same and stating,
"This shit was fucked up when I rented it."
For the record, listeners, most equipment rental companies have excellent security systems and video that is of the highest quality. The company I worked for even had all footage taken sent to the home office, so there is no way that you can get away with that type of lie. If you want to give the impression of your cognitive abilities that if brains were gunpowder, you couldn't blow your nose, go for it, as we love watching you squirm in your skin, inevitably building up to your mind snapping with a clear audible sound, and the savory aroma of what's left of your pride wafting up, like barbecue on a July cookout. My advice, grow up, realize that your mother lied about how smart you are, obey the contract that you signed, and most importantly, take the freaking $8 to $36 added insurance. It's more cost-effective than a settlement, and saves your pride before the fall. Groovy? Now customers are part of the job, the good, bad, or indifferent, and if needed, you figuratively have to spank them for their own sake, but at no time should the company you work for try to act like the same unruly child that customers can be. Makes no sense to do so. As I mentioned earlier, the surveillance video shows in-store, outside perimeters, and other areas of the property, all directly to the home office, which is also the eagle's nest for the owners, the antagonists of our tale. In itself, this factor is a minimal amount of annoyance. Far as I care, it's their bread and butter, and we know how much Southerners like their bread and butter, so game on. Now, the frustration that came from the owners was when we were at peak business, each staff was on a terminal or something to assist with customer activity and delight. The customers would be awesome, patient, friendly, and at times 10+ deep, due to the fact that we were the wingnuts in the busy hub of several states. At this time, we had Joplin and Marmaduke literally wiped off the map by tornadoes, and the tri-state was in Noah's Ark level of flooding. So trucks and equipment were being used or pulled in from California and Florida. Work was nuttier than a squirrel turd, folks. I genuinely love people, even the meat Twinkies that challenge my perfectly composed professional veneer. You are all the creatures of legend. I believe that the company has the right to dictate the business model, and so long as it is profitable, who am I to argue? Now, I'm a bit of a maverick when it comes to logic, what is truly economically viable, best results for the customers, and what is knucking futs, waste of my time. It was always during the time when we were occupied with physical customers, people who are emotionally wrecked by the tragedy that plagued their families and lives. Similar people on the phone looking for non-existent equipment that the owners would have the novel idea to make mock phone calls looking for equipment that they knew was unavailable, or even several days away in another state. For training purposes, of course. My philosophy has always been cash-in-hand customers take all priorities, and when call centers are available to accommodate the overwhelming amount of phone calls, you provide service to delight your customers, not simply satisfy, and with this, your business will thrive. Evidently, the owners were not of the same opinion. They would call, request that we attempt to track down a vehicle, and not want to hold or get a call back. I would not play their games and politely get all the information and call immediately after the last customer in my line was merrily on the road. This caused the owners to question my loyalty and ability. However, they could see that my totals were equivalent to the full-time staff, even only working part-time, and had the highest customer experience rating in our region. So bite my shiny metal ass, as one of my heroes would say. My GM would come to me and parlay to get me to see the logic behind the scenes and educate me on how important this was for the greater good of the company. His words were spoken to deaf ears, and he knew that I would never surrender to the dark side of the Force, not even with the temptation of Taco Tuesdays, alluring as it may be. With this, my GM slinked off to deal with the bitterness of defeat in his mouth, not so much with the owners, who were cooking up a strategy that would resemble more of a batch of bathtub meth, cooking in a trailer park on a July day. If you're getting a mental image of Walter White, stop, and now picture Beavis and Butthead, strung out 2 years after high school, and now you're riding the same mental bus. Sorry, but no stops or transfers at this time. A crazy Saturday morning, we already have customers who are riding our backs like Seabiscuit, and my mobile phone terminal rings, which, for the audience, is the starting gun for the game being afoot. I still myself for the arena, which is my workplace this day. Smiling, I politely asked the customer, who was the critical focus of my attention, "Would you pardon me for one quick moment to greet the person who is calling in, to assure them we are extremely busy, and a team member will be with them shortly." Now we are, as people, empathetic and sympathetic to the needs of our fellow humans. As such, we can be very logical in this situation, and people who are at the counter, or possibly on the phone side of being a customer and in this, know how they feel about their expectations for customer service. The customer cheerily told me all is well, and that they will peruse the literature regarding the levels of supplemental insurance and give me a few quick minutes. Still beaming my $1 million service smile, I pick up the phone and sing out, "Thank you for calling Dewey, Screw and Howe. This is Sean. How may I assist you?" From the other side,
Hi, my name is Sandy Hyman. We're dealing with 500 years flooding and desperately need a 26-foot truck and auto trailer this afternoon. We looked at your website and we can't find any trucks or equipment in the entire South.
So, keeping my sunny side up and praying to the gods of customer service employees everywhere, I move in quickly to engage my foe. Knowing the time is of the essence, I had recognized a voice as that of the owner's wife, had pen and paper ready, split screen working in the house customer contract, second screen is the vehicle nationwide available inventory, and more moves in a game of checkers ready. I flank my adversary and strike. I am so sorry to hear of your misfortune and will do everything possible to ease your stress and suffering. Now, looking at the corporate view of the inventory, You are certainly correct that we have nothing available for immediate use. However, if I may get your number and a few pieces of information, I will give this my or a fellow teammate a request, and we will do all that is possible to assist." I knew all too well that this would not work. Owner's wife would now proceed to make attempts for me to chase down a piece of equipment that is more elusive than Bigfoot or Skunk Ape, to be geographically correct. As we are in the grand old South, she retorts,
"That will not do. You and your company are obligated to help me get a truck now."
Briefly, I pause for dramatic effect and answer, "Ma'am, I know all too well who this is, what you are attempting, and must share with you that this will not fare well for you. You can see on camera that we are dealing with a full house of folks in legitimate dire need, and know better than me exactly how futile it is to look for equipment, much less looking for equipment being requested by non-existent customers. When we have our hands beyond full, you want me to stop customer flow, inconvenience people with cash in hand, just so I can ride along your eco trip." Dead silence, and I see the person in front of me looking close to done reviewing insurance, and less than a minute on the game clock. From the depths of withering intellect she responded,
"Well, it's your job and the customers can just deal with it. We own the company and make the rules."
My answer? Simple. "Ma'am, you are absolutely right about owning the company and making the rules. I request that you please explain in a way that doesn't make me feel like a 5-year-old. The logic behind the customers just having to deal with it, please." At this moment I flip the call from handset to speaker, pressing the cradle switch stealthily with my fingers, as not to reveal my now tactical advantage. Evidently she had too much sugar and caffeine. My query was a spark that set off her powder keg, and she goes thermonuclear for the audience in our lobby.
"Look, college boy, I don't care if you're from California. I don't care if you're a business major, and I don't care if I waste an in-house customer's time. I will do whatever I want to whoever I want, and I don't give a frog's fat ass whose time I waste. Got it?"
Yet again pausing, looking at the bewilderment of all customers in the lobby, I then replied, "Well, myself and all of the people who are in hearing range of the speaker on this phone emphatically understand that you obviously don't give a damn about them or the cash in hand. That is the lifeblood of your company. Now, if you're done acting like a drunken 3-year-old in a sandbox, I have priorities that do not include you or your husband. Now you can apologize for your behavior to the kind people you just insulted, and never pull this ignorance with me again, or I will seriously walk the hell out. Good day, ma'am." She hangs up, not a sorry to be had. Not missing a beat, I pick up with the person in front of me. He asks, "Well, that woman makes as much sense as any idiot that would headbutt a belt sander." My reaction was, "Yes, you're absolutely correct." Looking just above the sea of heads to make sure we all knew that I was speaking to the mass. "We won't be dealing with any more sirens' attempts to lead the Argos into the rocks, and I assure you all, we are looking at calm seas ahead. Now please be aware that the company's beliefs and opinions are not reflected by your service team here. My apologies for the interruption. Now, unless anyone wants to terminate my employment," I look directly at my GM, who is now slinking back to his office in defeat, and knowing the tempestuous sea that awaits him, I finish. Everyone wave goodbye to the camera behind me, and wish Mrs. Sandy Hyman a fantastic day. We professionally and quickly get everyone on the road, make reservations for trucks returning, and have a profitable sunny southern day. Before I clock out, my GM approached me and said,
"You know they wanted to fire you, right?"
Ready for this, I fire back, "Yes, sir, but the weird-looking banjo-playing couple that owns the company knows they cannot fire me, so they picked the next best thing and told you to give me a stern warning, right?" GM looks me with eyes that tell me his spirit died many moons ago, and meekly he said, "Come on, dude. Just give me a break so they can get off my back, please." Feeling the better angels of my heart, I drop to my knees, smack down in front of him, and full camera view, and hug his legs, doing my best to appear to be sobbing, shaking with guilt. I rise, knowing that I would never get an Oscar nomination for my performance, and look at Boss Man. If that doesn't do it, I just don't know what will, buddy. Have a good one. And you owe me a big one, okay? And exit the war zone. Moral of this story, never argue with the big dog, especially when it has a business degree and finishing up his 4th year. And most importantly, when it has nothing to lose if it breaks the chains that bind it, because it will bite you right in your pride. Thank you for now, and stay golden. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, number 19. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. Apologies to those of you who kept waiting for a while. One of them was nearly a year there. But I do appreciate it. I get there eventually. I just have to find the right places for it. Like story number 5, I'd actually completely forgot I had that story. I'd been saving it away for just one such video, but thankfully I remembered this week. I would like to, of course, just like to add and stress that, again, just because someone features in an Idiots in the Wild doesn't mean they're a bad person. Like the waitress lady there in the restaurant. Perfectly lovely lady, just a little oblivious to the fact that those people were a family. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.